Anti-Semitism. The project truly focuses on telling the story of the Holocaust through digital storytelling. So we have Erez Kaganovich in the studio here, photographer and the human behind the humans of the Holocaust here. So thanks for joining us. We also have Tomer Alduli in the studio with us today. You're the founder and the CEO of the Fighting Online Anti-Semitism. We've had you on the show before on this theme, so I appreciate you coming back as well, Tomer and Erez. I think both of you are at the heads of important initiatives here. And aimed at the current generation, the younger generation. Erez, I want to talk to you about this. The inspiration for the project, Humans of the Holocaust. Can you describe a bit, what brought you into this? And I know this sort of comes off of other initiatives of yours, Humans of Tel Aviv, Humans of Israel. So tell us about, what's so important about your Holocaust initiative here.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I started the Humans of the Holocaust project around 2019. And the idea was that actually a few years ago in Humans of Tel Aviv, I published a picture of young grandkids of a Holocaust survivor, Yosef Diamant, and they actually tattooed Yosef Diamant Holocaust number on their wrists. And when I published it on the International Memorial Day of the Holocaust, it went viral.
And I saw that on the front of the site there. I mean, that is part of it. It's all these young arms.
Exactly.
With numbers.
Exactly.
Them. This sort of something that doesn't settle in your mind, seeing that, or at least it's jarring. Right.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because, people, from all around the world saw the picture, and I got a lot of messages from people who asked me, why are those young people actually tattooed a barcode on their wrist? And I was amazed. And I got a lot of messages, from the Arab and Muslim world, from people who actually told me, listen, this is the first time we ever heard about the Holocaust.
Wow.
And this is the first time we realized where the State of Israel was even established. And I was really moved, and I realized that I have the ability to actually, better inform and better educate people about the Holocaust. And in 2019, I stumbled upon a survey of the Claims Conference that actually showed that 66% of young millennials in the States never heard about Auschwitz, and that 50% could not name even one concentration camp or a ghetto.
Those are horrifying statistics.
And, I was amazed. Those numbers sent a shiver down my spine, and I told myself, in the beginning, I was really upset about those numbers, and I was, a little bit angry about those millennials and Zers. And I realized that, as I thought about it, that I shouldn't be, angry about those, young generation. Because when I thought about it, when I was their age, with all of my background, I didn't want to have any connection to the Holocaust whatsoever. I remember that, during Holocaust Day, in Israel, I wouldn't even turn on the TV. I didn't want to see the dead bodies. I didn't want to hear about the atrocities. Even the numbers, 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust, it's unthinkable. Yeah. And I realized that, if I, with all of my background, I'm Jewish, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, I grew up in Israel, which means that you're actually, you're hammered with Holocaust education from elementary school, and I, didn't want to have a connection to the Holocaust. Why would, let's say, somebody from Lexington, Kentucky would want to engage with that? And then I realized that we have to tell the story of Holocaust survivors in a different way. It has to be optimistic. It has to be full of life. It has to be, colorful. It has to be something that will ignite a great spark of curiosity at the viewers, so they will actually, they will stop scrolling down their feed and, double click and will go and will be better informed and better educate.
Speaking of the feed, speaking of this, exactly what you're discussing here in Tomer, this is the arena you're involved in here. We had this report put out, the Anti-Defamation League, Tel Aviv University, their annual anti-Semitism report this week, just on the eve of Holocaust Day, that highlight really the still evolving, the still rising threat of anti-Semitism around the world. Look, in this arena, like Erez is describing, Tomer, the online world, which is obviously where so many, certainly this generation, are going for their information day after day. What do you see? What dangers are you seeing in this online fight in terms of what people are or are not seeing? As they scroll those feeds.
So our report, annual report for 2022, shows an increase of anti-Semitic content, and mostly also on Holocaust denial content. And it is very important to say that we see also an increase of the removal rate. Wow. So some platforms like Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, they remove more Holocaust denial than last year.
So they're looking for it, they're screening for it in some ways. Okay.
Their policy is against Holocaust denial, but the problem starts with other platforms like Telegram, Gab, VK. So the most violent content and the most anti-Semitic content, this content is published on these platforms and is quite difficult to remove on these platforms. So we have seen more Holocaust denial, and of course it affects also the offline sphere. We have seen just recently in Slovakia, and of course 3 years ago in Pittsburgh in the United States, that there was an increase violent regarding the online sphere, and there is a direct link between the online sphere and the offline sphere. This is why we talk with the volunteers in Israel, mostly young adults and students, to fight online anti-Semitism.
How do you fight it, though? Is there productivity initiatives like Erez here, where you put out other content? I mean, how do you fight it?
So we work mostly on 2 different levels. So first would be monitoring and reporting the content to the platform. The second one is more educational. So we go out and meet with Jewish communities, and not only Jewish communities, with everybody that wants to study about online anti-Semitism in Israel and abroad. And we encourage them to use the social media platforms to create positive information, mostly on TikTok and Instagram. And nowadays we have another exhibition in Holon city here in Israel, where young adults have created dozens of TikTok videos to promote Holocaust, to the fight against Holocaust denial.
I mean, certainly,
I think this is crucial, when we're speaking about fighting anti-Semitism, it's not only about, to stay in the Jewish community. We have to get outside of our comfort zone. We have to reach out to places where you actually have anti-Semitism, and you have to fight it online, and you have to create content that will be interesting and will be insightful, and people will want to engage with that. And this is exactly what I'm doing, the Humans of the Holocaust project. And I'm going to have an exhibition tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right? Okay.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, at the German embassy in Tel Aviv. And I'm really proud, of actually, showing my exhibition at the German embassy in Tel Aviv.
They've been a great partner in these kind of things. I mean, whether it be in Germany, here, obviously, they're one of the great partners out there. For us.
Yeah, it's really, really meaningful, to present the Holocaust exhibition in the German embassy in Tel Aviv. And I've got to tell you that, it's in the bottom line, you have to create content. You have to create something interesting, something that, will make people stop and want to engage with that. Because as I told you in the beginning about those 66% of young millennials that never heard about Auschwitz, if we want to create something that will be insightful, something that will be interesting, the numbers will be 80%, 85%. And this is, one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that, you have ignorance and people are not aware of what happened in the Holocaust. And on the other hand, you have this rise in anti-Semitism. And if people are ignorant about the consequences of the Holocaust, you have a rise in anti-Semitism. So you have to fight it. You have to push back.
Maybe to muddy the waters here, Tomer, about, in terms of the most nasty content, let's put it that way, the anti-Semitic content you see, I mean, is there part of it that's receiving cover in a way from the far left or from really progressive movements? Where does it get complicated in terms of identifying and going after the way that anti-Semitism is evolving? It's not as clear cut as it's not swastikas out there. It is also, but I mean, we're seeing different ways that this is manifesting. When does it become the most dangerous or difficult to identify, to go after?
So the biggest problem is when we talk about anti-Israeli hate.
Yeah.
This is something that all platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok and others, they would say that this content is not hate speech. So therefore, they would not remove any content that calls for the destruction of the state of Israel.
So it's like legitimate criticism of a foreign government or however they frame it. Okay.
Exactly. But even if someone calls to destroy the state of Israel, for example, they would keep this content online. And this is, of course, what many people call the new anti-Semitic content that published online. We have seen that there was a difference between Holocaust denial on various platforms. So some platforms, they talk about it and they remove this, but most of the platforms, especially like in the United States, Gab and other platforms, they keep it out there. And this is very, very difficult because eventually those platforms, we do not have anyone to talk with, and this content stays online and affects other people.
Time is running away from us in this segment. Gentlemen, Tomer Dubi, Kaganovich, thanks for being with us. Keep up the good work both of you are doing, and thanks for joining us. Good work with the exhibition. Keep up the work, guys. Keep up the fight online. We'll be back with more here. Stay with us.